The man was buried in a coffin by his own son, but upon awakening, he found himself unharmed and standing in his home, with Abbie even holding a cake, celebrating his birthday. Although he was puzzled by everything in front of him, Ichabod didn't dwell on it further. At that moment, Abbie received a call from the sheriff, saying someone wanted to meet Ichabod, but when they drove over, they found that everyone here had been decapitated. They knew this was the handiwork of the Headless Horseman, so they immediately grabbed their gear and stormed into the room, which was littered with signs of destruction. Underneath a table, Ichabod found a pile of documents, but just as they were about to examine them, the Headless Horseman suddenly burst through the door, launching an attack without a word. Seeing this, Abbie immediately raised her machine gun, but the bullets did no damage to the Headless Horseman. At that moment, Ichabod quickly fired a crossbow arrow. When the flash grenade's light faded, the Headless Horseman had already escaped through the window. Ichabod wanted to pursue him and finish him off, but Abbie stopped him. Now, it was crucial to figure out why the Headless Horseman had come here, so they began to examine the documents they had just found. Among them, Ichabod saw a drawing of a key, which he had seen before. His mentor, Benjamin, had once owned it. On a stormy night, Benjamin had attached the key to a kite, intending to destroy it with the fire of heaven, but he ultimately failed. Benjamin had no choice but to hide the key in a secret place. To this day, Ichabod did not know why Benjamin wanted to destroy the key. In her notes, Abbie found the name of the key, called Gehenna, which refers to the purgatorial space between life and death. It seems that this key is the key to opening Purgatory. Moloch probably sent the Headless Horseman to find the key in order to open Purgatory and release the souls inside, while he himself would break through the order and come to the human world. To prevent the key from falling into Moloch's hands, they decided to find it first, but after flipping through all the notes, they found no clues about the key. With no other options, they took the drawing to Henry, who could sense information by touching objects. When Henry placed his hand on the drawing, his eyes turned black in an instant, but after a while, he said he sensed nothing. Then Henry turned to Abbie, whose mentor, Corbin, liked to collect files on supernatural events. Henry thought there might be a lot of information at Corbin's. After hearing this, Abbie immediately called Ichabod outside because she suddenly thought of her sister, Jenny. Jenny had once retrieved a sketch for Corbin, and the original owner of that sketch was Benjamin. Just then, Ichabod suddenly felt a sharp pain in his body, and his memories began to blur.
I brought you here for one final mission. To tell me where to find Franklin's key. And now I know. With your sister, Jenny.
Jenny's still alive. We're still in Purgatory.
It's all a trick. You want out? The illusion has been shattered. Abigail will remain in Purgatory, and you will suffocate in that blade pine box I buried you in back on Earth. Whilst I retrieve the key.
You have to get out of that coffin, find Jenny, and find the key. I'll try to stop Moloch from here.
I promise you, I will return for you!
It turned out that Henry had long been Moloch's minion, and everything that had happened was an illusion he had concocted. When Ichabod woke up, he was still buried in the coffin, his body entwined with vines. Ichabod wanted to call for help, but he discovered there was no signal at all. An angry Ichabod punched the coffin lid, and the falling dirt seeped into his mouth. But a strange taste attracted Ichabod's attention. He then carefully tasted the falling dirt and discovered it contained a large amount of sulfur. Instantly, Ichabod thought of a way to escape. He rolled the cloth into strips and stuffed them into the cracks of the lid, then rubbed the stone to create sparks to ignite the bones. Moloch slashed his palm and dripped blood onto the earth, all to create an army of demons. And he told Abbie that Moloch was seeking the key to open Purgatory and allow all wandering spirits to occupy the human world. After learning this, Abbie wanted to pass the information to Ichabod. With Andy's help, they arrived at Moloch's lair, where a mirror hung on the wall inscribed with a spell. By reciting the spell along with a name, the mirror could reflect a passage connecting to the outside world. At this time, Ichabod was devising a plan to rescue Jenny. When he hears gunshots in the warehouse, Ichabod rushes in with a lorry. Seeing this, Jenny quickly got into the van, and after firing several shots to fend off the pursuing enemies, they successfully drove away. Suddenly, Ichabod saw Abbie through the mirror, and in the next second, his figure appeared in Moloch's lair. Abbie hastily shared what she knew with Ichabod. fearing it was all a trap. She didn't want Ichabod to retrieve the key to save her, but how could Ichabod bear to leave Abbie in purgatory? He was determined to get the key and rescue her. After some discussion, they decided to act together. Abbie would try to stall Moloch in purgatory while Ichabod continued searching for the key. Back in reality, they immediately went to the burial site of Benjamin, which by then had been occupied by Black Forest mercenaries, also under Henry's orders to find the key. At this moment, Ichabod recalled a famous saying often mentioned by his mentor.
The key to success lies under the alarm clock.
Success lies under the alarm clock.
They simultaneously turned toward the clock behind them, under which was a red brick with an inscription. Ichabod used a tool to pry open the red brick and found the key inside. Then they drove to a forest. After saying goodbye to Jenny, Ichabod recited the spell to open the gates of purgatory, and soon a tunnel appeared before him. Without hesitation, he walked into it. Meanwhile, Abbie was in purgatory looking for something to resist Moloch when Ichabod suddenly appeared in front of her. Seeing him, Abbie excitedly embraced him. When they parted, Ichabod took out a bottle of water from his pocket. Just as the unsuspecting Abbie was about to drink, a familiar voice came from afar. Another Ichabod appeared. The Ichabod in front of Abbie immediately turned and roared at her. Realizing that the Ichabod before her was an imposter, Abbie rushed to subdue him, but the fake Ichabod easily threw her to the ground. Through blurred vision, Abbie saw two Ichabods fighting, and soon one of them ran towards her with the key. They ran to an open space. Ichabod turned back and urged Abbie to keep moving, but the change in how he addressed her made Abbie instantly realize something was wrong.
How did you know that wasn't me?
Because he didn't say lieutenant.
Hearing Abbie's explanation, Ichabod was also frightened. Thankful he never changed how he addressed Abbie. Just then, Moloch found their location. Seeing him, they took the key and hid. Watching demons crawl out from the ground, they quickly recited the spell to open the passage. As Ichabod inserted the key into the iron door in front of them, Moloch sensed their location. Moloch abandoned his army and chased them on horseback. Fortunately, the passage was closed at the last moment, and the key in Ichabod's hand turned to ashes. With no key, Moloch could not escape from purgatory. What they didn't know was that Henry had already established another form of contact with Moloch and had also gained control over one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, the Horsemen of War. With just a thought, Henry could command the Horsemen of War to do anything. It's a kindred with headless horseman's head in it, and he's capable of fighting against any knight. Ichabod summoned it specifically to rescue Katrina, who was trapped. A day prior, Ichabod had a nightmare where the headless horseman bound Katrina to an altar and Henry fused their blood together. Upon waking, deeply concerned for Katrina, Ichabod decided to awaken the legendary kindred, a Frankenstein's monster composed of soldiers' limbs. In the past, as the army faced threats from Death Knights, Benjamin and a wizard collaborated to combat these foes by assembling the kindred from the limbs of fallen soldiers. However, they never awakened this creature, as they could never find the most crucial component, the head. Now, Ichabod possessing the headless horseman's skull meant they could finally complete this last step. They retrieved the skull and, following Benjamin's notes, arrived at the burial site of the kindred. At the end of the tunnel they found a golden brick, and the name engraved on it was none other than Kindred. When Abbie pressed a nearby mechanism, a coffin suddenly fell from the stone wall. Ichabod carefully opened the coffin lid, revealing a desiccated corpse inside. They then lifted the corpse outside. The moment Abbie removed the skull from its container, its eyes immediately turned white. Ichabod knew the headless horseman had sensed the skull's location. They had to awaken the kindred before dark. As Ichabod began chanting spells from the Bible, the skull gradually connected to the body, but the headless horseman also arrived at the scene. While they were fighting, Ichabod stealthily reached where Katrina was held captive. Just as he prepared to leave with Katrina, she refused to go. Katrina knew that once she left, the headless horseman would stop at nothing to find her, putting Ichabod's life at risk. More importantly, Moloch was brewing a major plan, and only by staying could she learn more about their schemes to find a way to stop him. Ichabod, unable to persuade Katrina, agreed to her decision despite his deep reluctance. Meanwhile, the kindred continued to battle the headless horseman, but soon the Horsemen of War arrived, quickly overwhelming Kindred. Seeing this, Abbie took out a shotgun to distract the Horsemen of War, leaving only the headless horseman and Kindred at the scene. Just as Kindred grabbed his weapon and was about to kill Headless Horseman, Abbie was in danger, but Kindred arrived in time to stop Horsemen of War. Afterward, He nodded at Abbie, who immediately turned and left. However, when Abbie saw Ichabod emerge alone, her face filled with endless confusion, but there was no time to ask why. Once outside, they encountered the still-fighting Kindred. Seeing Ichabod and his group successfully escape, Kindred broke free from the fray and ran deep into the forest. Back at the cabin, Abraham saw the untied ropes and was puzzled why Katrina hadn't left.
Wherever I go, you would follow. So I have come to see that for now, this is my place.
Wise not to acclimate to this world. It will not exist much longer.